Rand Paul puts the beat down on Department of Homeland Security, DHS, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, completely sweats him out. He has some words for FBI Director Wray, also doing the same thing. Welcome to Doug in Exile. I'm Doug TeNapel. This is where all the happy people are, and this is the news you really need today.
Secretary Mayorkas, is DHS still meeting with social media companies to discuss content moderation?
Ranking Member Paul, you and I have discussed this before. We do not meet with social media companies for the purpose of instructing them to take down content.
You have never had any meetings with the social media companies to discuss content moderation?
Rand Paul already knows Mayorkas is guilty of this, so he's setting a trap because he's going to get him for lying to Congress later. This is how you get them. They're going to get Fauci too. The Department of Homeland Security, they have them already working with Twitter. This is where Elon Musk's Twitter exposure through Matt Taibbi, we're going to quote him later too, it exposed everything. It is the biggest political tectonic shift that's happened in this country in 30 years. I'm calling it right now. This is huge. Without Rand Paul's work, this kind of work, you will no longer have a First Amendment free speech right.
What we have done in the past, Ranking Member Paul, as I shared with you previously, is we, along with other federal agencies, have met with social media companies in a public-private partnership to speak of the threats to the homeland so that those companies are alert to them.
Do you think a threat to the homeland is a discussion of vaccine efficacy?
I do not, Ranking Member Paul. And
if you'll have your staff read, and I think it'd be good for you to read also the Missouri versus Biden case, it lists time and time again discussion of constitutionally protected speech that has nothing to do with national security. So when you say you didn't meet to do with that, yes, you were meeting, you just disagree with the characterization of it. Were you meeting with social media companies to discuss content moderation? And your answer to that is no?
My answer
that's the specific question. Did you meet with them, and were you meeting with them to discuss content on the internet?
Mayorkas is such a snake. He looks like he just shed his skin. And later, Speaker Wray, I've got a video clip of Speaker Wray directly negating what Mayorkas is saying right now.
Answer remains the same, Ranking Member Paul, that we met on a periodic basis with other federal agencies and a group of social media companies to speak with them about the threat environment that the homeland faced.
Right, and this includes discussion of vaccine efficacy, mask efficacy, Hunter Biden's laptop. Are these meetings still occurring?
Ranking Member Paul, they are not. We do not participate in any such meeting.
And the reason the meetings aren't occurring is because a federal judge placed an injunction on you, and the Biden administration acknowledged that they're not having the meetings. So you need at least acknowledge that the court is talking to you about this and saying what you were doing was violating the First Amendment.
I have those court documents later, but first I did a quick Google search. Look, I put in the search, Trump memes White House. And I get this message up from Google. It says memes about groups of people might be disturbing or hurtful. My only question is, was this directed by the White House, or is Google voluntarily participating in politics-based censorship? You could Google when Trump was in office, any meme against Trump's White House did not get this warning sign. So why under Biden? Now here's Rand Paul sweating down FBI Speaker Wray, who negates what Mayorkas just said.
Is the FBI still meeting with social media companies?
We're having some interaction with social media companies, but all of those interactions have changed fundamentally in the wake of the court's rulings.
Speaker Wray acknowledges that because the court ruled against them, they've had to change their tactics, which Mayorkas said, we've never done it. No, you did do it. You changed.
That's sort of an acknowledgement that perhaps you weren't just talking about national security, pornography, and human trafficking, right? You had other areas of discussion that did involve constitutionally protected speech.
No, that's not an acknowledgement of that.
Then how did you change your behavior?
Out of an abundance of caution, in order to make sure that we don't run afoul of any court ruling, I would say.
I'm going to cut this greasy government apparatchik liar off to give you Matt Taibbi, who was the guy who worked with Twitter to expose the messages that Twitter found of the FBI working to put the heat on Twitter to censor speech about Hunter Biden's laptop and Russia. Matt Tebbe says 4 federal judges have already ruled that the White House, FBI, the Surgeon General's office, and the CDC were, quote, in violation of the First Amendment, unquote, with this conduct. And for those who doubt, here's the actual legal document with our government. Next, we consider the FBI. We find that the FBI, too, likely 1, coerced the platforms into moderating content, and 2, encouraged them to do so by effecting changes to their moderation policies, both in violation of the First Amendment. That's our government against Mayorkas and FBI Director Wray. They continue. We find that the White House, acting in concert with the Surgeon General's office, likely 1, coerced the platforms to make their moderation decisions by way of intimidating messages and threats of adverse consequences, and 2, significantly encouraged the platform's decisions by commandeering their decision-making process, both in violation of the First Amendment. They're guilty. Rand Paul called it out. Twitter's the one that exposed it. Without Twitter, none of this would have happened. Thank you, Elon Musk. And you're only hearing about this because we believe in free speech. And this is the news that you really need to know today. Thank you guys for subscribing. It helps get the word out. I'm Doug in Exile.